Greetings. We are members of the comprehensive, integrated, three-tiered model of prevention research team. We are excited to introduce you to the Ci3T model of prevention in this presentation. The Ci3T model of prevention is built by a school leadership team based on the needs of the students they serve and in the context of their specific school. In this presentation, various members of the Ci3T research team will talk about the academic, behavioral, and social skill components of the Ci3T model, along with the importance of measurement for accurately detecting students who may need additional instruction or supports.
As we introduce this three-tiered models of prevention, you can think about Ci3T as a blueprint for the school. In essence, the Ci3T implementation manual each school creates becomes the document that details all the availabilities for students across academic, social, and behavioral domains. It also contains a plan of what's available at Tier 2 or secondary prevention for just some students. These are low-intensity supports intended to help students who may need some extra support. The Ci3T implementation manual also includes plans for Tier 3 supports, again, evidence-based practices for just a few students that have the most intensive intervention needs. Ci3T is a framework for organizing everything that's available and happening at a school, including enrichment opportunities as well as remediation efforts. Our research team has been in education for many years and have seen over time new things come in and other things go out. And essentially, the Ci3T model of prevention is a framework that the school or district can use to organize everything that's taking place as new initiatives come and go. The decisions of what to include support schools and district goals of making sure evidence-based practices, strategies, and programs are in place at each level of prevention, and that we are incorporating a data-driven approach to support the multiple needs of all students. And in this way, general and special educators can collaborate efficiently and effectively. This allows schools to both prevent the development of learning and behavior problems from occurring, and then responding efficiently and effectively when problems do occur.
In the past, you may have heard about primary, secondary, and tertiary supports, and some of you have heard the term Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. These are essentially interchangeable terms. The model is built by school site Ci3T leadership teams who are representative of faculty and staff. They will build the school's Ci3T implementation manual over the course of a school year, with feedback from all faculty and staff. What is unique about Ci3T is that it attends to students' development in academic, behavioral, and social-emotional learning domains. The Ci3T leadership team develops a primary prevention Tier 1 plan, focused on those three domains. For academics, the overarching goal is making sure all students have access to high-quality instruction in targeted areas. The Ci3T leadership team also makes decisions on how to better meet students' social skills needs so they can best access and engage in productive learning opportunities with their peers. Many schools have programs like bullying prevention, character development, social skills, or social-emotional learning. The intent behind curricula brought into the school is to make sure we have identified explicit targets or goals of how we want students to behave in a way that supports instruction. So there are instructional programs and curricula for academic and social skill domains. Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, or PBIS, is the behavioral framework within Ci3T to gain the instructional time needed by creating a school-wide set of expectations with opportunities to practice and receive feedback and reinforcement for meeting those expectations. Each school's Ci3T leadership team, based on data all faculty and staff provide by completing the school-wide expectation survey for specific settings, will construct a school-wide expectation matrix. The matrix will reflect the opinions of all adults in the school building on what people want to see in terms of student behavior so that we can better learn what to teach kids in order for them to be successful in classrooms and in non-instructional areas, like hallways, the bus, or the cafeteria. This primary prevention is available to every single student just by virtue of attending school, and then the intent is to figure out which students may need additional supports in the form of research-based Tier 2 or secondary prevention efforts, and these are intended for smaller groups of students. These are low or intensity strategies, things like behavioral contracts, self-monitoring, reading groups, or anger management groups. The goal is to reserve tertiary or Tier 3 supports for the students with the greatest need, such as one-on-one reading interventions or functional assessment-based interventions.
The Ci3T model, as mentioned, integrates academic, behavioral, and social domains. For the academic piece, the goal is that all students in the whole district will have coordinated instruction both within and across grade levels. In many states, this is linked to the Common Core state or district standards, anchored to college and career readiness standards. We have learned over the past several years that with response to intervention models, the benefit is of close monitoring of student performance, including benchmarking student progress in core skill areas 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. This allows us to use those data to quickly determine which students may need extra support in the form of Tier 2 or Tier 3 supports. Then, students who receive those additional supports have progress monitored to see if the selected strategy or intervention is sufficient to meet their learning needs. Likewise, work in the social domain centers around the use of an evidence-based social skill, social emotional learning, or character development program. As part of the Ci3T building process, leadership team members and district leaders will review curriculum using clear guidelines to inform decisions. For example, teams review the evidence regarding student outcomes of various programs. Teams investigate whether these outcomes align with the school's desired outcomes, goals, and areas of needs. Does the district or school have the resources to purchase the curriculum and professional learning, and whether that can be provided in a sustainable way?
Ci3T does not endorse any specific social skills program. The programs listed here are only examples, and each Ci3T leadership team selects a program based on the values and the culture of their community and according to their school data informed by district decision making. We also want to make sure that anything that schools bring into their building has a plan for students who will need additional support beyond Tier 1 efforts. And for anyone who has ever worn spandex, we know that one size absolutely does not fit all. So when the Ci3T leadership team selects and adopts the social skills program, they need to make sure that there is a plan for how to support students who need more than what is typically offered at Tier 1. We also want to make sure that when a program is adopted, there's an actionable plan for monitoring implementation, also referred to as treatment integrity. And this is providing a school information on the extent to which students have access to the learning that is promised in the Tier 1 experience. In other words, are the lessons being taught? Do all students have the opportunity to access that instruction?
In terms of establishing the behavioral component, or school-wide PBIS, this is not a curriculum, but a framework. The intent of PBIS is to level the playing field for all students, providing them with clearly defined expectations of what is expected of them across all key settings in elementary, middle, or high school. Then, just like we teach academics and social skills, we teach these expectations to all students, and we give everybody an opportunity to practice and receive feedback and reinforcement for meeting these expectations. It's critical that we empower every adult in the building to be someone who can deliver feedback and reinforcement. So not just teachers, but all staff, including paraprofessionals, administrators, cafeteria workers, custodians, office staff, and substitutes. We want to make sure every adult is on the same page in terms of what is expected and what is reinforced for students' behavior so that all students can meet those expectations and experience success.
A vital component of the building process is unique to Ci3T is that it's a data-informed approach to establishing school-wide expectations. Using input from all faculty and staff, gathered from the school-wide expectation survey for specific settings, Ci3T leadership teams design an expectation matrix that looks like this, which is going to establish, clarify, and define expectations in key areas, whether it's in an elementary school setting or in a middle or high school setting. And thus, these integrated academic, behavioral, and social efforts form the base of the Ci3T model of prevention. Next, we need to consider how we can respond to students who may need additional supports across any of these 3 domains.
To accurately detect who needs more and in which areas, the school site Ci3T leadership team will identify key variables to inform decision making. So for example, if you're using office discipline referral data to make decisions about who needs more, you'll want to make certain that you're using a system, such as Swiss, that allows you to collect information accurately and reliably. We encourage schools to consider using data that are typically not considered, such as visits to the nurse's office and attendance data. School is 100% one of those must be present to win games. So if you have students who are not regular attenders, we need to make sure that we first support them in getting to school and having good attendance, because we don't want to suggest to their parents that they are not responding to what's in place if they're not there to get what's in place.
Another thing that may be novel to schools is the introduction of behavior screenings, which are very similar in nature to academic screenings schools may already have in place. Just like academic screeners, behavior screeners take place 3 times a year, in fall, winter, and spring, with the fall time point being 4 to 6 weeks after the school year begins. This information can be used to obtain snapshots in time as to how a school is progressing, and it can also lead to data-informed decision-making as to which students or teachers might need extra support.
These are data from a middle school where they've been doing behavior screenings for over a decade, since 2004. You can see over time that the percentage of students in the low-risk category has increased, which means they saw improvements in student behavior over that period of time. In the fall of 2011, it makes it much more clear here who may need Tier 3 support and who may need Tier 2 support. But again, the screening data are analyzed with other data collected as part of regular school practices, which may include office discipline referrals, nurse visits, or attendance data. To support decisions about which assessments to bring into schools and how to use them, Ci3T leadership teams, as well as district Ci3T leadership teams, make an at-a-glance assessment schedule. This supports transparency and allows everyone to see what data are available and when for use in data-informed decision-making, such as connecting students to Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports.
When looking at your Tier 2 supports, it's also referred to as our secondary prevention efforts. We again want to create an opportunity where students with data and identified needs can access these evidence-based practices in an efficient way. The Ci3T leadership team works with others in the school and districts to make transparent these extra supports in the buildings by creating these intervention grids, which lists all available offerings.
Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention grids are part of the Ci3T plan and have explicit criteria as to how students will be supported if they have additional needs. Examples include behavior contracts, self-monitoring, check-in, check-out, reading groups, instructional choice, and other low-intensity strategies. Ci3T leadership teams make sure everybody has equal access to this information. Rather than relying on teacher referrals, which has been the traditional practice, the intent with these grids is to make sure decisions are driven by data, creating equitable access to supports for all students. Teachers and other educators learn how to use their academic and behavior screening data to determine which students may benefit from extra supports. Once students access these extra supports, we want to make sure data are collected to see how students respond, whether or not supports are being implemented with integrity, and what people think about these extra supports. These data ensure resources don't bottleneck and that students don't get stuck in an intervention and never leave. Schools establish firm exit criteria as to when extra supports should be over. Ci3T leadership teams start by defining the support, and remember, the support is not a person, but what the person does, using school-wide data entry criteria to make decisions about for whom this may be a good idea. The team builds mechanisms for monitoring student progress, the degree to which interventions are implemented, and opinions of everyone involved, and then determine exit criteria.
Exit criteria guide educators in determining when additional supports are needed, such as different or additional Tier 2 supports, a Tier 3 support, or if a student is successful and ready to continue with primary prevention alone. A key part is that all secondary and tertiary prevention efforts in a school building are additive in nature. Ci3T leadership teams clarify that students, for example, are not removed from core reading time to improve their reading with extra supports. They become additional supports. For example, one evidence-based Tier 3 support is functional assessment-based intervention, which is a highly effective procedure for promoting pro-social behavior. This would not be done instead of your school-wide plan, but in addition to that plan. We do, though, want to reserve these intensive supports for students with the greatest need, because to collect data like these and to make decisions about how well these targeted behaviors are improving or not improving, we want to make sure first that we've begun with less intensive approaches, such as those listed for Tier 2 supports like self-monitoring or behavior contracts. This will help us be efficient with our time and resources.
Some additional benefits of the Ci3T model of prevention include a mechanism for coordinating targeted areas such as academic content, social skills, and a positive behavioral interventions and support framework. If you think about this from a district level perspective, if you had a clearly defined Ci3T model for the elementary, middle, and high schools in your district, the academic, behavioral, and social skills instruction and additional supports would become completely transparent to teachers, families, and students. Then, when students graduate from one school level to the next, or if rezoning occurs or feeder patterns change, it becomes much easier to support those transitions because we can explicitly teach what may be different at schools within the district. It also provides enormous benefits to facilitate implementation of systemic school-wide support. For example, when a behavior specialist comes to a school to support a child who may have Tier 3 needs, they can easily say, "Let's look at what you've already attempted in your Tier 2 intervention grids." Teachers and other educators will have that readily available along with the data on how the student responded and how the student accessed supports. It also provides a very nice way to communicate with parents and strengthen that home-school partnership because this is not a secret but a blueprint for a school, readily available to not only school employees but also the parent communities to make sure everyone is doing the best job we can to support all students. Thank you for listening today. We're excited you're exploring Ci3T and hope you enjoy learning more about the Ci3T Professional Learning Series.